Be honest, I know you're already secretly plotting, or openly plotting, your Football Manager 26 save for when that game hopefully comes out. So what I have for you today is 3 story-driven Football Manager save ideas, focused on both immersion and realism, and that can be used for either the end of FM24 as one of your last saves, or maybe the start of FM26 as one of your first. So let's get straight into the first idea. First up is the national team Road to Glory. One of the most underrated ways to play in FM, and one that I think is perfect for the end of FM24 if you still want to get in a long-term save that doesn't take quite as much time. National team management in FM oftentimes gets a really bad rap. You don't control training, there's less to do on a day-to-day basis, and the save can overall feel bare bones compared to a club career. But hear me out. For what it is, some of those things may be a feature and not a bug, and you can really make the most of it. Instead of endless club matches, you're focusing on scouting, picking squads, experimenting with tactics, and praying your dual nationals choose you over your rivals. I did this with the Philippines Build-a-Nation save, where I took them from the 150s in the world to 51st by the end of 17 seasons. And that included 2 World Cup qualifications. If you pick a true minnow, say the Faroe Islands or San Marino, or maybe a low-ranked African or Asian nation, you get to tell a generational story and be the person who kind of lifts this nation's national team hopes from something so tiny and can make them into something so big. And that big can be so relative in regards to the goals that you set for this national team. The nice thing about this is a last FM24 save, or maybe a first one in FM26, only play about 8 to 12 games a year. So each one really matters a lot. You'll live for the youth intakes of your nation, as well as players who might have dual nationality that you'll have to go scout and find amongst the huge database of new gen players. And you'll do whatever you can to try and squeeze every bit of potential out of the tiny player pool that you have. And if you want even more control over that development, you can control the youth teams to shape your future stars, and even go and watch club matches ahead of squad selections. One thing that I think is super underrated and not enough people do, whether that be for their national team or club scouting. For me, really, the magic of this type of save comes down to the unpredictability, that RNG factor that you get because of that lack of control you have over so many factors. And the sense that you're dragging a tiny footballing nation up through the rankings through sheer stubbornness and hard work. If you never tried it, trust me, now is the time. We don't know if it for sure will be an FM26, and I think if you haven't tried national team coaching yet, at least give it a try and see if you like it. All right, for the second one, let's dial up one of my favorite things about Football Manager and video games in general, the role-playing. This is the true coaching career, and it's really not that crazy of an idea, but hear me out. We all know what a journeyman save is. Start unemployed or at a tiny club, then build your reputation and move around. But what if we took it just a little bit further? Imagine a save where you only do what a real coach does. You focus on tactics, match prep, team management, and the training sessions that you would realistically handle. You let your director of football or your board make transfers. You don't micromanage the youth team unless your coach in your role-playing mind would actually do that. And you live with the consequences of your staff's decisions, whether that be good or bad. Suddenly, you're not an all-powerful manager. You're just another coach fighting for job security while juggling player egos, signings, and unrealistic board expectations. The journeyman twist is where the save really comes alive. Let's say you start as a young, unproven coach, maybe a first-time manager in the Canadian CPL with the newer expansion side Vancouver FC. If you do well over a number of seasons, maybe an MLS team comes calling and they give you a shot in the United States. And as you progress through that, whether good or bad, you might show a glimpse of potential, and a lowly European club in a lower division might take a chance on you and maybe want some of your fresh ideas. We've seen it before. And one caveat of this that I'll say as well is don't rush into these coaching changes. Let them happen naturally and build up the story and really ask yourself the important questions when making those moves. Would my coach get this job? And what would the responsibilities actually look like at the new club they're at? At a smaller club, maybe you handle everything because that's just the resources that you have at your disposal. You might have to handle most of the training and find good free agents to come on trial as your form of scouting. Whereas on the other end, at a big club, you might not even have control over any of the player personnel that are on the team, and you just have to deal with whatever you got. You might make suggestions or ask the general manager, hey, can you look out for this position or suggest some transfer targets? But I think the important thing is just asking yourself at every decision, what would this coach do and what would his situation look like in this role-playing world? I think this type of save is a great way to fight FM's player power creep, where you usually end up micromanaging every tiny detail, and whether you're doing it intentionally or unintentionally, the meta and the things that you get used to that work over time will continue to be done over and over and over again. With this approach, approach, much like the national team approach, the game can surprise you, and there's a lot more RNG that you have to take into account. Your board signs 5 wingers on the right and none on the left. Well, you gotta make it work and see if one can play inverted. Or maybe they sold your star player right out from under you right before the summer transfer window was set to end, and you have to start the first half of the season without your main midfielder calling all the shots. So if you love role-playing, storytelling, and realism, I think this type of save will scratch all of those itches. All right, and for my last trick, I'm gonna mix 2 fan favorites, the Journeyman and the Build-a-Nation. I'm really just using polymerization on these save ideas and calling them my own. And it's really making me miss my Elemental hero deck from back in the day. Here's the idea. Pick a smaller league that you've never fully experienced. Maybe one that you've always seen on the fringes or have scouted players and bought players from, but never fully jumped into and played in. Maybe Denmark, maybe Switzerland, Poland, or even Ireland. The goal, much like any Build-a-Nation, is to get that league into a top 5 European League coefficient spot. I know a lot of people's goal is to make it number 1, but I honestly don't even think that's possible in one playthrough. Maybe over 200, 300 years, but I think the Premier League is just so busted. But instead of sticking at one club for that entire time, this is gonna be a journeyman. Start with a tiny team that you like, build them up with smart signings, better training facilities, and well-informed business decisions, and then move on to the next club. It doesn't necessarily have to be a step up. It could be a rival, it could be a lateral move, it could even be a downgrade. But the goal is always going to be the same, leaving behind green finances, an academy pipeline that club can rely on, and improved facilities. Because think of yourself as a club builder, a Thomas Frank. Yes, I am a Tottenham fan, please do not click off. And think as if Thomas Frank didn't leave Denmark and he stayed there implementing all of the things of Brentford Moneyball, but in Denmark and across the whole Superliga, and even the divisions below. Over time, you'll see the whole league rise with you. And I know the AI is not the smartest, but it will definitely help. Smaller clubs will make deeper runs in Europe, more money will be flowing in, and better players may stay local instead of going off to other leagues in Europe. And of course, I cannot ignore some of the tips Second Yellow Card gives on Build-a-Nation. Loan young stars or developmental players to domestic rivals, play friendlies with lower clubs to build up their finances as well, and sign local and foreign talent that you will be able to make a profit on in order to bring more money into the clubs that you are at, and maybe pay extra for players from domestic teams that you are poaching from in order to even give them more finances to work with. And I think a nice ultimate goal for this type of save is to go full Jose Mourinho at Porto, European trophies and a whole nation behind you. If you're the type of manager that likes the long grind and the satisfaction of seeing your league break into the European elite, this one is for you. And just like the last idea, I'm 100% doing this in FM26. I'm just not sure what nation yet, so maybe give me some suggestions. So there you have it, guys. Those are 3 story-driven football manager ideas that I think will work for the end of FM24 as well as the start of FM26. If you've tried any of these or have your own twist on them, please let me know. There's been such a great response in my last few videos, so thank you so much for that. So definitely consider dropping a like, commenting, subscribing. I love talking in the comments with you about your ideas and as well as your own stories and your save, as well as just hearing the things you have to say about the video. I'm always open to suggestions, so please let me know. But again, thank you guys so much for all the support. We're getting close to 1,000 subs. I'm gonna keep making weekly football manager ideas revolving around the play style that I like to play. So without further ado, thank you as always, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.